The crowd fell silent as Nia Carter pulled off her helmet, sweat glistening on her brow, her braids falling past her shoulders. The checkered flag had long waved, but no one had moved. Her bike mat, black, roaring like thunder just minutes ago, now sat quietly beside her. The initials J stitched in silver across the back of her jacket. Dean stumbled toward her, bruised, breathless, his ego shattered. He extended a hand, stammering something about being sorry. But Nia didn't even blink. "You didn't touch me to break me," she said, voice low but strong. "You touched me to remind yourself of power. Now I remind you what real power looks like." She turned away, leaving him standing there, broken not from speed, but from truth. But how did it come to this? How did one woman alone, outnumbered, mocked, flip the script and make the world watch? Why did 4 men, once laughing at her, now carry the weight of shame in front of the same cameras they once used to humiliate her? What did they see in her eyes that day, when they touched earth they could never unsee again? To answer that, we have to go back, not just to that day, but to the legacy beneath the bike, the silence behind her stare, and the fire they didn't know they'd lit when they made her their joke. Nia Carter had always stood out. Born and raised in Oakland, she grew up in a house where engines roared louder than TV sets. Her father, James Carter, had been a street racer in his youth. But by the time Nia was 10, he'd traded racing for raising her alone after her mother passed. Together, they built things go-karts at first, then engines, then the bike that would carry her into every battle she'd face. It wasn't just any bike. The Yamaha R1 they built together wasn't shiny or flashy. It was matte black, sleek and purposeful. Every bolt, every scratch told a story. And when James passed suddenly from a heart attack 2 years earlier, Nia didn't sell it, didn't hide it. She rebuilt it, upgraded it. Her grief poured into every modification. She became known in her neighborhood not just as a rider, but the rider. One who could handle curves like a dance, who rode for more than just speed, for memory, for pride, for him. So when she heard about the open track event in the nearby rural town of Allerton, she knew it would be hostile territory. She'd heard the whispers, how they didn't take kindly to outsiders, especially not black riders, especially not women. But Nia didn't ride for their comfort. She rode because it was hers. That's how she found herself at the edge of the Allerton track on a Sunday morning, engine humming, eyes scanning the unfamiliar faces. That's when she met them, the 4 from the White Rain. Dean, their self-appointed leader, with his smug grin and mirrored sunglasses. Jake, all muscle and mouth. Tyler and Brad, the shadow laughers who followed every insult with chuckles, never brave enough to speak first. They didn't see a rider. They saw a target. They blocked her path to the track, laughed at her bike, called it scrap metal on wheels. Dean stepped closer, uninvited, smirking as he reached out and touched her braids. "Didn't know they let night riders on this track," he said, chuckling while Jake reached around and grabbed her waist, pretending to pat her down. "What's this, girl? Hiding nose?" They laughed like they'd done it 100 times, like it was sport. Nia didn't flinch. She didn't scream. She didn't push them away. Her eyes locked on Dean's, her jaw tight, her hands clenched but steady. And when they kicked her, biker small, mocking tap, she simply stared. "You don't belong here," Dean sneered. She didn't answer. Later, their video would spread like wildfire. Captioned, "She thought she belonged here." We reminded her she didn't. The internet was supposed to laugh with them, but it didn't. The internet erupted, but not the way they hoped. Within hours of the video going live, Nia's silent resistance became a storm. People watched it again and again, not to laugh, but to feel what she must have felt. The stillness of her face, the way she didn't shrink, the quiet power of someone who knew exactly who she was. Even when surrounded by mockery, comments flooded in. "This is disgusting." They harassed her, then posted it like a trophy. She didn't need to say a word. Her presence screamed louder than them. Nia didn't post anything. No response. No video. Just silence. But her silence wasn't emptiness. Was the space where justice started. Reporters picked up the story. One article led to another. People dug into the white rain. Not just the video, but past encounters. Old photos surfaced. The group harassing another Hispanic rider last year. A black couple who left an event early after being blocked from the pit area. Slowly, the image they built tough racers, local heroes. Dean's College issued a statement. We do not condone racism or harassment in any form. He was cut from the racing team. Sponsors of local bike events began to drop the club. Jake lost his part-time job at a dealership. Tyler and Brad were suspended from upcoming regional races. Their names once celebrated in their circle, now brought embarrassment to their families. Their town. Meanwhile, Nia rode. She didn't seek interviews, didn't bask in attention. She just kept riding the streets of Oakland. Her father's initials always on her back, her mind quiet but alive. One afternoon, a letter arrived. An invitation. The Urban Velocity League, an elite all-gender racing circuit known for its talent and diversity, was hosting an open challenge event in the city. No politics, no favoritism, just speed, skill, respect. Anyone could enter, even Dean and his crew. Nia didn't hesitate. She tuned up the Yamaha herself. Every detail perfect. Her jacket, not just JC anymore, but something more. Legacy is not given, it's earned. The event was packed. Fans, riders, reporters. The buzz wasn't just about the race, was about her. Was she just a symbol? Or was she truly the rider they believed in? Dean showed up too. No crew behind him this time. Just him and his bike, stripped of arrogance. Desperate for redemption or maybe just to reclaim a shred of respect. When the race lineup was announced, fate didn't flinch. Nia and Densame heat. Engines revved. The world slowed. When the flag dropped, it was no longer about the past, it was about right now. Nia rode like water fluid, relentless. Cutting through the track like she belonged there because she did. Dean chased her, pushing his bike to its limits. But no matter how he moved, she was always ahead. Not because of anger, not because of revenge, because she had purpose. She crossed the finish line clean. First, the crowd erupted. Dean finished third. He walked toward her slowly, helmet in hand, shame in his eyes. He tried to speak, but before he could, she turned. You didn't touch me to break me, she said, voice calm, eyes locked. You touched me to remind yourself of power. Now I remind you what real power looks like. Then she walked away, into a crowd that now parted not in mockery, but in respect. And behind her, her father's initials caught the light shining, not just on her jacket, but in every eye that watched her take back the road. The footage of Nia's victory spread faster than the original video ever had. But this time, no one was laughing. Clips of her crossing the finish line, her calm stare, and those final words to Dean were everywhere. News segments, social media, podcasts. Her silence had once fueled outrage. Now her strength inspired millions. People called her the Shadow Rider, not because she hid in the dark, but because she moved through it, silent and unstoppable. Brands reached out. Interviews were requested. But Nia didn't ride for fame. She turned most of them down, choosing instead to give one quiet interview to a small Oakland community station, the same one that once covered her father's street races. In that interview, she finally spoke about it all. They touched my bike like it was nothing, she said, eyes soft but steady. Then they touched me like I didn't matter, like I was part of the machine, like I had no right to stand where they stood. But they didn't know who built that bike, or what he taught me. They didn't know why I ride. The interviewer moved, asked, "Why do you ride, Nia?" She looked down for a moment, then smiled not with her mouth, but with her eyes. I ride because every time I twist that throttle, I feel my father's hand on mine. I ride because people like me aren't supposed to. I ride because they try to take my space, but I claimed it. And now, it's mine. The video racked up millions of views. Young girls, Black, Latina, Asian, Indigenous, started posting their own rides, tagging her. Messages flooded in. You made me believe I could. They tried to stop you, but you flew. Thank you for riding for all of us. But Naya didn't let it change her. One evening, she rode out to the Oakland Hills, stopping at a quiet overlook she and her father once visited. She sat on her bike, helmet beside her, the city lights glowing beneath her like stars. She pulled out an old photo, her and her dad, covered in grease, smiling next to the Yamaha frame, half-built. She whispered, "We did it, Dad." A tear rolled down her cheek, but it wasn't sadness. It was something else. Release, peace. From behind her, another engine roared. It was Maya, a fellow female rider she'd inspired, pulling up beside her. "You ready for the next ride?" Maya asked. Naya nodded, eyes on the horizon. Always, as they rode into the night, to shadows against the fading sun. Naya didn't just ride for revenge, or justice, or even legacy. She rode because the road was hers. No one would ever take it again. Weeks passed. The noise of viral fame began to fade. But Nia's presence only grew stronger, like a quiet storm that leaves its mark. Long after the skies clear, she didn't chase attention, but the world kept watching. At community bike nights in Oakland, kids ran up to her with wide eyes, asking to touch her bike, asking how she learned. Mothers approached, thanking her for showing their daughters that courage didn't always need volume, that sometimes just being there was enough. Naya started volunteering at a local garage that trained underprivileged youth in bike maintenance. She showed them not just how to ride, but how to build, how to take metal and make it mean something, how to pour pain, memory, love, and determination into something that moved. She called it the Carter Garage. On the wall, she painted her father's name in big, bold letters so that every kid who walked in knew the story behind the speed. One day a letter arrived. It was from the organizers of a national racing tool, one of the biggest in the country. They'd watched the Urban Velocity Challenge. They saw the videos, read the stories. They wanted her on the tour. Sponsorship, travel, competitions across the states. A real shot at a national title. For a moment, Naya stood frozen in the garage, the letter in her hand. Her dream, her father's dream, right there. But so was the garage, the kids, the city that shaped her. She took a breath. Then, instead of answering right away, she walked outside and sat on the curb beside her bike. That bike, built from grief and love, had never led her wrong. As she stared at it, her phone buzzed. A text from Maya. "Whatever you choose, I'm riding with you." Later that night, under a sky full of stars, Naya made her decision. The next morning, she announced it not to the press, not online, but in the garage. To the kids. "I'm going," she said, smiling at their surprised faces. "But not just for me, for all of us. I'll ride those tracks, wear our name on my jacket. And when I come back, this garage, it's going to be more than a place to fix bikes. It's going to be the start of something bigger." Cheers erupted, but Nia's eyes glistened. She wasn't just chasing speed anymore. She was carrying a movement. Her first race on the tour was held in a city far from Oakland, but when she rolled in, she wasn't alone. Maya rode beside her. So did 3 of the teenagers from the garage, now part of her pit crew, and stitched across the back of her new race jacket. Under her father's initials were 3 simple words. "You touched me, I rose." When she pulled up to the starting line, some of the same racers who once mocked her now nodded in respect. Others stared in awe, and some, like Dean, who never raced again, watched from the sidelines, knowing they'd tried to write her story. But she'd taken the pen back. As the lights turned green and Nia surged forward, the crowd roared not just for the race, but for the truth of her journey, because this wasn't just about one ride. It was about every time someone said she didn't belong, and she answered by riding anyway. The tour was grueling, city after city, track after track, but Nia thrived. Each race tested her limits. Rain-slicked roads, narrow corners, engines failing mid-heat. She faced them all with the same unshakable calm. Not because it was easy, but because she'd already faced worse. The cold stares, the hands that tried to claim her space, the doubt that tried to silence her. And through it all, she never forgot where she came from. In Miami, she won her first major title, crossing the line with a lead so clean it stunned the crowd into silence, before erupting into cheers. In Denver, she placed second after a heated battle with a racer who later admitted, "I've never been pushed like that. She's not just fast, she's focused." By the time she reached the final race in Los Angeles, her name was known not just in racing circles, but everywhere. But Nia wasn't thinking about fame. The night before the race, she stood on the hotel balcony, looking out at the city lights. She called her grandmother, the woman who helped raise her when her father worked double shifts. "You proud of me, Nana?" she asked softly. "You already know the answer, baby," her grandmother replied. "But let me say it anyway. I was proud when you were 6 and built your first toy car. I was proud when you stood your ground and didn't raise a hand to those boys. And I'm proud now. But most of all, I'm proud that you never let hate change your heart." Nia smiled, tears threatening to fall. The next day, she suited up for the biggest race of her life. Reporters swarmed. Cameras clicked. The announcer called her name with reverence, Nia Carter, the rising star who's rewriting the rules of this sport. The race was brutal. She trailed in third for most of it. Her tires nearly gave out in the third lap. And yet, she stayed steady, her focus unbroken. On the final stretch, the leader faltered one miscalculation. Nia seized the opening with precision. No flash, no aggression, just pure, practiced skill. She won. The crowd went wild. On the podium, trophy in hand, cameras flashing, someone handed her a microphone. The moment everyone was waiting for her victory speech. She looked at the crowd, then at the camera, then down at her jacket, the initials catching the sun. Her voice didn't need to be loud, just true. "This isn't just my win," she said. "This is for every girl who's been laughed at, touched without consent, doubted, dismissed. This is for every rider told they don't belong because of their color, gender, or where they're from. You belong. Ride anyway." The crowd roared, but Nia didn't linger. As always, she slipped away quietly, helmet under her arm, walking past reporters and fans, not because she didn't care, but because the road was calling. Back in Oakland, she returned to the Carter garage to find it full. Not just with kids, but with mentors, mechanics, volunteers, people inspired by her story, ready to build more than bikes, ready to build community. Nia watched them for a while, then walked to her Yamaha, the bike that started it all. She ran her hand along the seat, then whispered, "We're just getting started." And somewhere, in the roar of distant engines, in the heartbeat of the city, and in every young rider who dared to believe they heard her, if you were inspired by Nia's journey, by her strength, her silence, and the way she turned pain into power, then this is just the beginning. Don't forget to like this video, drop a comment if her story moved you, and hit that subscribe button so you never miss powerful stories like this one. Your support helps us share more voices that matter, voices like Nia. Ride with us. Subscribe now.